Samurai Nippon. Takeda Shingen's Cavalry Corps.
Thud, 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 thud. The thunder-like sound of hoofbeats echoes through the mountains of Kai. The vibration of hundreds of war horses galloping in unison shakes the very earth. The sound of wind being cut, the metallic clang of horse gear, and the battle cries of warriors merge together, bringing both terror and excitement to the battlefield. The air trembles and birds take flight in alarm. The scent of grass mingles with the sweat of horses, creating the unique tension of the battlefield. This was the sound of Takeda, Shingen's Cavalry Corps, feared throughout the Sengoku period as the Tiger of Kai. Why was the Takeda army called the strongest in the Sengoku period? The secret lay not merely in skillful horsemanship, but in revolutionary military technology and logistic systems. However, why did this seemingly perfect military apparatus collapse in just 9 years after Shingen's death? Tonight, we delve into the truth of technological innovation and strategy, hidden behind those hoofbeats that once echoed through the mountains of Kai. But first, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. This will help you see more videos perfectly suited to your interests.
Chapter 1. Background and Historical Setting.
Kai Province, 10th year of Tenbun 1541. The sound of hammers in the forge rings out across the Kofu Basin. Shrouded in morning mist, the regular clanging of metal being struck announces the arrival of a new era to the mountain. Villages still dim in the early light. Red firelight illuminates the workshops. The smell of burning iron assaults the nostrils. The sweaty foreheads of craftsmen gleam in the sparks. This was the center of a technological nation, home to some of Japan's most productive gold mines and skilled craftsmen. Gold production reached approximately 750 kilograms, annually worth about 3 billion yen in today's currency. 20-year-old Takeda Shingen, then called Harunobu, had just expelled his father Nobutora and inherited the family headship. The retainers who had suffered under his father's oppressive rule placed their hopes in the young new lord. Lord Harunobu will surely make our Kai a truly strong nation, declared the senior retainer Itagaki Nobukata before Shingen. However, harsh realities stood before the young new lord Kai Province's rice. Production was approximately 220,000 koku, equivalent to about 22 billion yen in annual income by today's standards, making it a small nation. With a population of about 150,000, the maximum deployable force was limited to 8,000 troops. Look at our neighboring provinces. Murakami Yoshikiyo of Shinano can mobilize 30,000 troops. Nagao Kagetora of Echigo commands 25,000, and Imagawa Yoshimoto of Suruga possesses a great army of 50,000, reported. The military strategist Yamamoto Kansuke, highlighting the harsh reality facing Kai. How can we oppose such powerful nations from this narrow mountain country? The challenges inherited from his father's era weighed heavily on Shingen's mind. A direct confrontation based on troop numbers would certainly result in being crushed by the logic of numbers. However, this geographical disadvantage became the driving force behind the Takeda military revolution. Horses raised in Kai's mountainous regions possessed the leg, strength and endurance to gallop up steep mountain paths, racing up mountain roads with an elevation difference of 1,000 meters while carrying heavily armed warriors. This was impossible for horses from the plains. Our army must make maximum use of this geographical advantage. Shingen began formulating a plan to convert Kai's geographical characteristics into military superiority. The mobility of mountainous terrain, the economic power of gold mines, the technical skills of craftsmen, all these needed to be integrated into a new military system. Our army shall be swift as the wind, quiet as the forest, fierce as fire in attack, and immovable as the mountain in defense. This banner inscription, Furinkazan, quoted from Sun Tzu's Art of War, was not mere spiritual philosophy, but expressed concrete tactical doctrine. Wind represented mobile warfare, forest meant information warfare, fire signified assault tactics, and mountain embodied defensive strategy. The construction of a comprehensive military system integrating all these elements was Shingen's goal.
Chapter 2. Portrait of the Protagonist.
Takeda Shingen, born Takeda Harunobu. From childhood, he displayed qualities different from other Sengoku warlords. Rather than tales of martial valor in battle, he showed keen interest in castle construction and logistics management, earning him the nickname the Practical Young Lord among his retainers. "Father, why did our army lose to Murakami Yoshikyo?" The 15-year-old Shingen asked his father Nobutora directly. Nobutora answered with a bitter expression, "We had superior numbers, but the enemy better utilized the geographical advantage." Then what is geographical advantage? Terrain, climate, popular support, gaining all of these as allies. This conversation became the foundation of Shingen's military philosophy. For him, warfare was not a matter of emotion or courage, but of systems and technology. "Battles are decided before they are fought," was Shingen's favorite saying. In modern terms, he was like a project manager, directing the construction of complex IT systems. The core of Shingen's military thought was the revolution of mobility. Traditional Sengoku daimyo primarily focused on defensive warfare within their territories and tended to avoid large-scale field battles. However, Shingen made aggressive mobile warfare his main strategy. Those who take a defensive stance will inevitably perish. "Attack is the greatest defense," Shingen's words expressed. Not mere spiritual theory but concrete strategic thinking, he established the concept of preventive warfare, launching preemptive strikes before the enemy could prepare their attacks. "If the enemy does not know us, while we know the enemy, we will never be defeated in 100 battles." Quoting Sun Tzu's words, Shingen began constructing an information-gathering system. Under his command was a ninja group called Mitsu Mono, 3 spies. They infiltrated enemy territory to investigate not only military intelligence, but also detailed surveys of terrain, weather, and civilian movements. Yesterday's rain makes the wetlands of Kawanakajima unsuitable for horse advancement. Murakami's army has only 5 days of provisions remaining. Enemy scouts are unaware of our army's movements. Such detailed intelligence was delivered to Shingen daily. He had constructed an information network, equivalent to modern military satellites using human power alone. However, Shingen's true innovation lay in his human aspects. "People are stone walls, people are castles, people are moats." This saying expressed not mere spiritual emphasis on human resources, but concrete organizational management philosophy. Shingen was a genius personnel manager who could discern each retainer's aptitude and assign them optimally. "Yamagata Masakage, I entrust you with the red armored cavalry. Your breakthrough power shall become the spearhead of our army. Naito Masatoyo, I entrust you with the black armored infantry. Your endurance shall become the backbone of our army. Baba Nobuharu, I entrust you with the white armored spear unit. Your coordination skills shall become the cornerstone of our army." Each unit embodied different tactical philosophies. Rather than mere military branch differences, red armor represented breakthrough power, black armor endurance, white armor coordination. By operating these in integrated fashion, they secured overwhelming battlefield superiority. Shingen's powers of human observation extended to both allies and enemies. Uesugi Kenshin is a warrior who values righteousness. If challenged to honorable frontal combat, he will certainly respond. However, he dislikes surprise attacks or scheming. Imagawa Yoshimoto is a cultured man who loves court culture. He has little actual battlefield experience. His aide Taigen Sesai handles military affairs, but when he dies, Imagawa's military strength will decline significantly. Based on such character analysis, Shingen varied his tactics, according to each opponent.
Chapter 3. Turning Point. The incident begins.
February 14th, 17th year of Tenbun 1548, the Battle of Uedahara. That day in Shinano, the ground was muddy with snowmelt. Horse hooves sank into the mud with heavy sounds. The smell of damp earth pierced the nostrils, and cold wind stung the cheeks. This was the battlefield where Shingen's Takeda army of 7,000 clashed with Murakami Yoshikyo's Shinano army of 3,000. "Today we shall bring Shinano under our control," Shingen declared before his retainers before departing. Having achieved the unification of Kai and begun the invasion of Shinano with full confidence, the Takeda army's morale was high. "The enemy's forces are less than half of ours. Victory is certain," reported Itagaki Nobukata, and Shingen nodded. However, battlefield reality betrayed the Takeda army's expectations. Murakami Yoshikyo skillfully utilized the terrain. He lured the Takeda cavalry into wetlands, sealing their mobility. Furthermore, he positioned archers on high ground to shoot down at the Takeda army. "Damn, the horses won't move. We're getting stuck in the mud! Enemy arrows are falling like rain!" The screams of Takeda soldiers echoed across the battlefield. Shingen sensed the deteriorating situation. Itagaki, Amari, launch a frontal breakthrough, commanded Shingen. Itagaki Nobukata and Amari Toriyasu began their charge. However, they fell into Murakami's clever trap and both were killed in action. Lord Itagaki. Lord Amari. The death of senior retainers greatly lowered Takeda army morale. Shingen himself was wounded by enemy arrows. I was overconfident. Shingen later reflected on this battle. He had overestimated his numerical advantage and underestimated enemy tactics. Retreat, came Shingen's anguished decision, and the Takeda army withdrew from the battlefield. It was their first major defeat since the unification of Kai. Returning to his castle, Shingen analyzed the battle situation in detail. Why did we lose? The problem lay in the limitations of conventional tactics. The Takeda army at that time did indeed possess cavalry, but it was merely a collection of individual warrior combat power. Rather than controlled group tactics, it was a ragtag army where individual warriors charged at will. This cannot respond to organized enemy forces. Shingen acutely felt the need for military reform. This defeat became the starting point for the technological innovation of the later Takeda Cavalry Corps. Shingen began with strengthening the information gathering system. Yamamoto Kansuke create detailed maps of enemy territory. River flows, mountain heights, road widths grasp everything accurately. Sanada Yukitaka investigate enemy internal affairs. Troop strength, provisions, weapons survey everything in detail. Next, he tackled innovation in logistics systems. Traditional armies relied on local procurement, but this could not support long-term mobile warfare. Kosaka Masanobu, I command you to secure supply routes. Provisions, weapons, horse feed establish a system for planned transportation of everything. Most important was tactical innovation. Cavalry should utilize not just charging power, but mobility. Shingen fundamentally reconsidered cavalry operations. This marked the transition from traditional frontal charge tactics to mobile tactics centered on flanking, encirclement, and disruption. The Takeda army is reborn from today. Shingen's declaration was not mere spiritual rhetoric, but the beginning of concrete military revolution.
Chapter 4, Climax.
September 10th, 4th year of Iroku 1561, the Battle of Kawanakajima. Before dawn at Kawanakajima, fog hung low. The sound of the Chikuma River broke the silence. Moonlight reflected on the water's surface created a fantastical beauty. Across the river, Wasugi Kenshin's Echigo army of 13,000 had taken position. The Takeda army numbered 20,000 numerically superior, but Kenshin's military genius posed the greatest threat to Shingen. Now is the time to demonstrate the true value of our military revolution. Confidence in the military system he had built over 13 years filled Shingen's heart. Since the defeat at Uedahara, he had dramatically evolved cavalry tactics. The innovation of the Takeda Cavalry Corps lay in 3 technological innovations. First was the establishment of organized cavalry tactics. This marked the transition from traditional individual combat to controlled group warfare at platoon, company, and battalion levels. Yamagata Masakage, report on the Red Armor formation. Yes, sir. The Red Armor consists of 50 horses as one tactical unit, composed of 10 squads. We have trained to change formations from dense charge to dispersed encirclement according to circumstances. Yamagata Masakage's report symbolized the tactical innovation of the Takeda army. The cavalry had evolved from a mere collection of individual combats to an organized fighting force. Second was the development of combined arms tactics. Cavalry, infantry, archers, and gun units were organically coordinated to maximize combat effectiveness through mutual support. Naito Masatoyo, how are the Black Armor preparations? The Black Armor infantry are ready to support cavalry charges. Archer units will suppress enemy counterattacks, and gun units will snipe key positions. This was a forerunner of modern combined arms tactics. Third was the realization of real-time information warfare. Signal fires, messengers, and reconnaissance networks were integrated to instantly grasp and transmit battlefield information. Sanada Yukitaka, what of enemy movements? The Wasugi army is positioned on Saijoyama. Kenshin appears to desire frontal, decisive battle. Shingen could grasp the entire battlefield in real time and make optimal tactical decisions. These innovative technologies demonstrated their power on the Kawanakajima battlefield. The enemy is positioned on Saijoyama. A frontal attack would allow them to exploit geographical advantage. Shingen avoided traditional frontal decisive battle and chose mobile tactics. He he deployed a flanking force of 12,000 to strike the enemy's rear using the woodpecker strategy. Baba Nobuharu, lead the flanking force around to the rear of Saijoyama. Drive the enemy toward our main force. Understood. This was sophisticated tactical maneuvering to sandwich the enemy between two armies. If the flanking force struck the rear, the Wasugi army would face attacks from front and back. However, Wasugi Kenshin was a military genius exceeding Shingen's expectations. He's reading Takeda movements. Kenshin saw through the Takeda army's flanking operation. Then he executed a bold operation to outflank the Takeda army. Under cover of night, the Wasugi army descended from Saijoyama and launched a surprise attack on the Takeda main camp using the fog. "My lord, enemy cavalry approaches," came the voice of Takeda Nobushige. Shingen's younger brother, known as Tenkyu, was in charge of rear command for the Takeda army. However, Kenshin's surprise attack exposed the rear units to the front lines. What is this? Shingen realized his own tactics had been turned against him. Having sent out the flanking force, the main camp's defenses were thin. Uesugi vanguard emerging from the fog charged toward the Takeda main camp with thunderous force. Echigo warriors in blue armor advanced with battle cries. "Whoa!" The Wasugi army's war cry echoed across the battlefield. Takeda soldiers were shaken by the sudden surprise attack. "Tenkyu, defend the main camp," came Shingen's order. Takeda Nobushige faced Kenshin's main force with only 500 men. "For my brother, I will sacrifice my life." Tenkyu's resolute voice stirred his subordinates' hearts. The 500 soldiers charged toward an enemy more than 10 times their number. In fierce battle, Takeda Nobushige withstood the Uesugi army's fierce assault. However, before overwhelming numerical disadvantage, he was gradually pushed back. "Lord Tenkyu, this is the end," called a subordinate. Tenkyu smiled. "No, not yet. I will grasp victory for my brother in exchange for my life." Takeda Nobushige launched a final charge. Enemy spears pierced his chest. Fresh blood splattered the ground. However, his sacrifice prevented the collapse of the Takeda main camp. "For my brother, let us die well." Tenkyu's final words inspired Takeda army morale. Shingen ordered a general assault to not waste his brother's death. "All forces, charge! Avenge Tenkyu!" Shingen's command began the Takeda army's counterattack. Yamagata Masakage's red armor charged the Wasugi army with lightning speed. Kai warriors in red armor plunged into enemy lines burning with flames of revenge. "Whoa! Revenge for Lord Tenkyu!" The red armor's battle cry echoed across the battlefield. Baba Nobuharu's white armor began flanking attacks from the left wing. Naito Masatoyo's black armor pushed forward from the front. 3 units attacking simultaneously from different directions, this was the true essence of the Takeda Cavalry Corps. Uesugi Kenshin also responded to the Takeda assault. "I, Kenshin, will not lose to the likes of Takeda." Kenshin's fighting spirit supported Wasugi army morale. However, before the Takeda army's organized attack, the Wasugi army gradually began retreating. Victory is decided. Shingen was confident of the changing battle situation. However, Kenshin continued resisting to the end. With personal valor, he approached Shingen and challenged him to single combat. "Shingen, let us fight!" Kenshin's cry rang across the battlefield. Shingen parried Kenshin's sword with his war fan. Sparks flew and metallic sounds rang out. 2 heroes engaged in fateful duel. "Kenshin is indeed strong," Shingen acknowledged Kenshin's martial prowess. However, this single combat did not last long. Takeda reinforcements arrived, and Kenshin was forced to retreat. "Next time we shall settle this decisively," Kenshin left with these parting words as the Wasugi army vanished from the battlefield. The battle ended in Takeda victory. However, it was not overwhelming victory, but hard-won success. Uesugi Kenshin's military genius exposed the limitations of the Takeda military system. Kenshin was indeed a formidable enemy, Shingen told his retainers at the post-battle review. However, this battle proved that the Takeda Cavalry Corps' strength lived up to its reputation as the strongest in the Sengoku period.
Chapter 5, Conclusion and Impact.
12 years after the Battle of Kawanakajima, April 12th, 4th year of Genki, 1573. Shingen fell ill during his western campaign. He died at age 53. His death marked the beginning of the end for the Takeda military system. Hide my death for 3 years. During that time, train Katsuyori as successor. Shingen's last will revealed the fundamental problem of his military system. The system depended too heavily on his personal abilities. After Shingen's death, his successor Takeda Katsuyori struggled to inherit the military system his father had built. While Katsuyori was an excellent general, he lacked Shingen's comprehensive military command abilities. "I do not possess father's tactical insight." Katsuyori's anguish directly led to declining Takeda military power. The unity of retainers also began loosening with Shingen's death. "Lord Katsuyori is different from Lord Shingen." Such voices began to whisper among retainers. Organizational control deteriorated and military system efficiency declined. May 21st, third year of Tensho 1575, the Battle of Nagakute. The Takeda army of 15,000 clashed with the combined Oda Tokugawa forces of 38,000. In this battle, the Takeda Cavalry Corps suffered devastating damage. Before guns, cavalry is powerless. The Oda army's 3,000 gun units shot down Takeda cavalry one after another. Sharp, dry sounds echoed across the battlefield, and the smell of gunpowder filled the air. "Oga!" Screams of Takeda soldiers rang out. Yamagata Masakage, Naito Masatoyo, Baba Nobuharu, famous generals from Shingen's era, died one after another. "Lord Shingen, I apologize." Yamagata Masakage apologized to his deceased lord as he fell to enemy bullets. With pride in the red armor, he scattered on the battlefield. The Nagakute defeat symbolized the technological obsolescence of the Takeda military system. While Shingen's cavalry corps had been innovative, it became outdated before the new technology of guns. Times have changed. Katsuyori had to accept the reality of defeat. However, it was too late. Takeda military prestige fell to earth, and allied nations' defections followed one after another. March 11th, 10th year of Tensho, 1582, the Takeda clan was destroyed. Why did Shingen's military revolution fail? The answer to this question lay in three factors. First was stagnation of technological innovation. After perfecting the cavalry corps, Shingen neglected new technological development. He could not respond to technological changes like the proliferation of guns. Second was personalization of the system. Because the military system depended on Shingen's personal abilities, it became dysfunctional after his death. Third was lack of strategic vision. While Shingen was tactically excellent, he did not achieve the strategic goal of national unification. However, Takeda Shingen's military innovations greatly influenced Japanese military history. Organized cavalry tactics later influenced Date Masamune's military reforms. Masamune developed unique cavalry tactics using Takeda Army mobile warfare as reference. Takeda cavalry is certainly instructive. Masamune studied Takeda military manuals and applied them to his own military system. Combined arms tactics were inherited by Tokugawa Ieyasu's military system. Ieyasu developed the Takeda Army's inter-service coordination and built a more efficient military system. Takeda military organization is well conceived. Ieyasu highly evaluated Takeda Army organizational management and utilized it in his own military reforms. Information warfare systems were applied in Toyotomi Hideyoshi's national unification wars. Hideyoshi built a nationwide information network using Takeda Army information gathering systems as reference. Information determines the outcome of war. Hideyoshi developed Takeda Army information tactics and achieved national unification. From a modern perspective, Takeda Shingen's military innovations provide three important lessons. First was the importance of technological innovation. The idea of compensating for geographical disadvantage with technological superiority applies to modern business strategy. It can be applied as a method for small companies to compete against large corporations. Second was the necessity of systems thinking. The perspective of viewing military power as an integrated system rather than individual technologies can be applied to modern organizational management. Third was the challenge of sustainability. Even excellent systems are meaningless unless inherited by successors. This shows the importance of human resource development and organizational succession.
Ending.
Thud, 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 thud. Once again, hoofbeats echo through the mountains of Kai. However, they have become sounds in memory. Wind blows through the mountains. The sound of swaying vegetation breaks the silence. Bird calls can be heard in the distance, and the murmur of streams reaches the ears. Takeda Shingen's cavalry corps was indeed the strongest of the Sengoku period. However, that strength was not eternal. Technology advances, times change, and systems become obsolete. Shingen's true greatness lay not in the strength of his cavalry corps, but in his insatiable quest for technological innovation. He never rested on current achievements, but constantly sought new tactics. Humans must continue changing constantly. Shingen's words are also a warning to us living in the modern era. In today's world where the pace of technological innovation is accelerating, the ability to adapt to change is the key to survival. Can you apply Takeda Shingen's innovative spirit to your own work and life? Adapting to technological progress, evolving systems, and passing them on to the next generation, this challenge continues in the modern era. The hoofbeats that once echoed through the mountains of Kai have stopped, but the passion for innovation still resonates in our hearts. History repeats, but it gives eternal wisdom to those who learn from it.